Hey, it's FYF Sportsman. It's Lamont. We are back with another podcast episode. Today, day one of the NBA playoffs. The play-in games are all done. Seeding 1 through 8 is now finalized. We have our matchups. And today's slate of matchups did not disappoint. Starting off with the Memphis Grizzlies, the 2 seed versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think that particular series right there is going to set the tone for how the 2021-22 playoffs are going to go, because it's not necessarily going to be about seeding. You might as well throw seeding out the door. It's going to be about the matchups. And we're going to see certain teams get farther in this playoff than expected, primarily because they have more favorable matchups, and we may see some upsets because of the same thing. We're going to get to that particular series. But the feature matchup of today here on FYF Sports is going to be the Golden State Warriors and the Denver Nuggets. I think this particular series really highlights the fact that matchups rule the day. This is a series where I felt that the Golden State Warriors avoided certain teams where they have matchup issues with, and the Denver Nuggets just simply match up with them best. I mean, obviously Jokic is going to be their strength, but the Golden State Warriors' strength is their defense. And with Draymond Green leading your defense at that center spot, and then Kevin Looney also helping lead that defense, is a really good defender, at least much improved. And then you have Wiggins, who's now committed on the defensive end. You now have a front line of defenders that can slow Jokic up while they're dealing with a myriad of injuries in their backcourt. We see Jamal is out, and then we see Michael Porter Jr. is also out as well. So we're going to get to the highlights, really look at how the Golden State Warriors were able to exploit a lot of these matchups, even with Steph Curry being hampered by the ankle injury. He was probable before the game. A lot of people were speculating that this man might not play. Steph Curry came in the game on a minutes restriction. He did not start. But the way this game played out, he actually, they actually didn't need Steph Curry to be the MVP caliber player that we know. It was another player on that roster that saved the day. Let's go ahead and get to the highlights. Golden State Warriors, Denver Nuggets. We got the highlights right here, man. The Warriors did a really good job of exploiting the Denver Nuggets' ability or inability to defend the paint. They kept Jokic busy in pick and rolls and a lot of ball movement. And this guy right here, Jordan Poole, just went absolutely bananas today. This man, Jordan Poole, went absolutely bananas today, dropping 30 points, completely unstoppable, constantly putting pressure on those Denver Nuggets players with a lot of off-ball actions, coming off a lot of screens. You see what Steve Kerr actually did in this particular game, bringing in a lot of shooters, right? He started by Alika, right? He set his young player in Kuminga, but he brought in as much shooting as possible. We saw Porter light him up. We saw Draymond Green making threes. We saw Bialika making shots. I mean, it was just a complete exploitation of this Denver Nugget team. And as we see it right here, look at Andre Iguodala. Look at the off-ball actions right here, exposing Austin Rivers with the tricky off-ball movements right there. And Jordan Poole, man, this is a great young player. This man should definitely be in heavy consideration for Sixth Man of the Year, or at least Most Improved Player. But this playoff right here is showing us a lot about the depth of this Golden State Warrior team if they start to get healthy. And again, you see Jokic in another pick and roll. He has to come out and defend on the three-point line. Jokic just looked worn down all day. They made him work on the offensive end and the defensive end. And then we see Jordan Poole, tough Euro step layup at the basket right there. He has the crowd hype. Steph Curry can now kind of take a backseat as their youngster is dominating this game. And these are the types of games right here that are going to give the Golden State Warriors more and more confidence as they go through this playoffs, because as Steph Curry gets healthy, or at least healthier, and he knows that he can rely on studs like that on the bench, this Warrior team is going to be a problem. Klay Thompson also did not let us down. Great shooting performance for Klay Thompson as well. Big game for him. But, man, I want you guys to really look at how they made these players work. You see Aaron Gordon chasing over the screen, probably a situation where they should have iced. Right? Barton right here looking to get the ball into Jokic. Jokic again, sluggish night because they're making him work on both ends. And look at the constant attack in the Jokic right here. And then Poole finished this playoff. This was one of the threes right here that just kind of iced it, where you knew there was going to be no comeback for this Denver Nugget team. And then Poole right here, once again, sidestep three. Jokic can't do nothing. They actually iced the screen right there. But because of Jokic's inability to move, maybe a little bit of fatigue, he can't get out and contest that three. Step back three for Jordan Poole. And then another crazy three right here. These guards are chasing over. And as you guys see right there, at that point in the game, there was really nothing that they can do. I mean, Denver, I felt like late in that game, you could easily see that was a game that they just kind of chalked up and gave to Golden State. Golden State came out with the far superior game plan. I'm curious to see what the Denver Nuggets and Mike Malone do going into game 2. That's going to be almost a must win. You don't want to go into Denver as the lower seeded team. And then you don't want to go into Denver down 2-0 with more rest for Steph Curry. Right? Going into this next game, Steph Curry's probably still going to be on a minutes restriction. It's going to be curious to see how the Denver Nuggets bounce back. But what can they do to bounce back? What weapons can they utilize to exploit this Golden State defense? I mean, obviously, Will Barton, you can't expect much bigger games than what he gave you today. He gave 24, 6, and 5. Great game for Will Barton. Jokic dropped 25 and 10. Again, most nights, that's a great stat line. But again, without their other star players, with like Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., they're going to struggle to find scoring. And that scoring will need to come from a player like Aaron Gordon. Look, quiet night tonight for the man. 8 points on 5 rebounds. That's not going to get it done. I mean, you're talking about a youngster that came into this league with so much promise. We're talking about all-star promise. And now he has the opportunity to shine, and he is not showing up. All right. Really, the only other two players that showed up, you have Morris with 10 points off the bench, and then you have Bones Highland. He dropped 10 points off the bench as well. But this Denver Nugget team, the question for this team, especially going up against the juggernaut, the offensive juggernaut and defensive juggernaut in the Golden State Warriors, they'd have to figure out how they can slow down this team, but then also put up enough points, right, without it gassing and exhausting all of their resources on the defensive end, right? Who are they going to look to call on? Players like, at least experienced playoff players like Austin Rivers, are going to have to give a bit more than 5 points in 26 minutes. So the Golden State Warrior defense with all of these players, Draymond Green looks healthy. Steph Curry is looking, again, he started this game off pretty stagnant, only 16 points on the night, but he will be getting healthier as long as he doesn't have any major injury setbacks. He will be getting healthier. What is this? Where are the answers going to come from? I mean, is it going to take Jokic having to go out and score 40, 15 rebounds and 15 assists just to eke out one win? And how many of those games does Jokic even have in him? Yes, he's the MVP, but man, he's not Superman. You cannot ask him to do it all. But when you look at the Warriors stat line, just balance all across the board. Draymond Green with 12 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds. Wiggins with 16, 9 and 2. Jordan Poole, man of the day, 30 points on the night. Klay Thompson dropped 19 points in 29 minutes. Then we have Steph Curry with 16 points. Again, 16 points, 22 minutes. They did a great job of his minutes restriction, limiting those minutes, really kind of gauge how well he can move on that ankle. He looked a little better, but again, early in this game, he looked a little hampered. You also get 8 points in the start for Bialika. So again, the Warriors didn't even let loose all of their weapons. Kuminga didn't really get out there and play much. They didn't use Moody. Damian Lee didn't get much playing time, but those are all guys that have had valuable minutes in big games for the Warriors. So again, this is a team that could potentially go 10 deep at any time, change up their playing styles, defend multiple lineups, multiple styles of play. This Warrior team is gonna be a tough out, and I'm curious to see how the Denver Nuggets are able to bounce back and find a way to at least stay competitive in this series. I mean, we had 2 other series today. Obviously, those weren't the feature games, but we had the Grizzlies, Timberwolves. This was a series right here. Obviously, Minnesota won 130-117. Anthony Edwards with a monster game, 36 points. Malik Beasley drops 23 and 5 off the bench. Jaden McDaniels 15 and 7 as well. Karl Anthony Towns just looked unstoppable. They don't have an answer for him with his ability to play from outside in, get up and down the court, move in transition, just dunking all over this Memphis team. How do they bounce back from this? Desmond Bane, a great shooting game. Brandon Clark, solid game, 13 points and 12 rebounds. But again, this Memphis team, what they do, their wins and losses revolve around Ja Morant. Now that it's playoff time, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this Memphis team, oh yeah, they were able to win a few games without Ja Morant. It's the same. No, it's not the same thing. This is playoff basketball. Stars need to be stars, and it's time for Ja Morant to show up. He's going to have a much bigger impact. He looked like he was just kind of driving in loosely today, very loose with the ball. A lot of his shots were getting blocked. I mean, he had the one big dunk at the end, but that was kind of a little too late. So again, how can Memphis right the ship? They've given up home court advantage. Minnesota now has it. They're in a must-win situation now. Minnesota's now they're in a free-for-all. They can come out, play free, let all their guns go, and they can potentially come in and steal 2 in Memphis if Memphis isn't careful. All right, they're gonna have to rectify things very quickly over there in Memphis as the 2 seed. A very young team over there, but they fight. So I don't expect them to give up. I expect a much better performance going into game 2. And then we have our last game of the day, Sixers versus Raptors. You guys already know how I felt about this particular series right here. I just thought this was just the matchups. I have to scratch how well Toronto's been playing. Yes, Toronto's been playing some great basketball. Yes, they have. Great basketball going into the playoffs. I did not expect them to be seeded as high as they were. Unfortunately, this matchup does not favor their style of play. They have no answers for James Harden, his ability to draw fouls, all right? And then they definitely don't have any answers for Joel Embiid. So we're talking about a game right here where, again, so much focus on Joel Embiid, so much focus on James Harden. They forgot about Tyrese Maxey, right? This guy also has playoff experience from last year. He knows how to play in these games. He knows how to handle these moments. 38 points in 38 minutes for Tyrese Maxey. Again, Toronto just really kind of blew it right there. They kind of blew it. They had, you have to lock in and you have to make Joel Embiid beat you. You can't let these others drop 38 on you. You have to make sure Joel Embiid is putting up his numbers, get him gas at the end, and hopefully you can outpace him at the end, especially when, players like Harden and Embiid, conditioning has always been a concern. But you had Tobias Harris, who actually played well. Remember, he's had a problem over the last couple of years of disappearing late in the playoffs or in late game situations in the playoffs. 26 points in 37 minutes. Joel Embiid, quiet game, 19 points, 15 rebounds. But again, this is what you want. You want more of a balanced attack so you're not so one-dimensional. This is what we saw when they got upset against the Hawks last year. James Harden, when we talk about balanced attack, he doesn't need to come out and try to drop 40. 22 points, 14 assists, 5 rebounds. That's exactly what they've been needing from this team. And then, unfortunately, on the flip side of that, when we talk about the Raptors, Scotty Barnes goes down with an ankle injury. This is why still in the game and being locked in matters so much, because injuries like that to a lower seeded team, especially when you're overmatched at so many other positions. So Siakam, solid game, 24 and 7. Expect a little bit more from him. The numbers didn't carry as much impact. OG Anunoby, I thought he would have much more a defensive impact on this game, and he didn't, but he had 20 and 7. Barnes, before he left the game, 15 and 10, so you could tell he was having a major impact on this game before he went out with an injury. 15 and 10 and 8, looking like he was going to be getting a triple-double in his first playoff game. Hopefully, he's able to bounce back for game 2 and not have to miss any games with that ankle injury. So we'll keep you guys updated on that as he's going to be getting an MRI tonight. Fred VanVleet, 18 points, 1 rebound, 6 assists. Solid game for him. But on a team that's so top heavy, I mean, when you look to their bench, they really don't have much firepower offensively or defensively. Their top 5 to 6 guys are going to have to carry this team. Is this Toronto team deep enough to withstand the offensive firepower and the defensive force that the Sixers bring? The Sixers are not going to be an easy out. And I keep telling people it's also a horrible matchup for a Toronto team that struggles to defend the paint and the post area. And now you have to defend arguably the best big man in the NBA and probably, irregardless of what your opinions are of him, arguably one of the best ISO players in the game in James Harden. Excellent at drawing fouls against a very physical Toronto Raptor team. That's going to come into play with a guy like James Harden, who's able to get inside, go facilitate, get other guys buckets. And he did a great job of getting Tyrese Maxey a lot of those buckets. He assisted on 18 of Tyrese Maxey's 38 points. So we'll see how they're able to translate that particular strategy in the game too. We know Toronto's going to make it difficult. But how are the Sixers, how are they going to be able to withstand those punches in the mouth? All right, now that they have the offensive firepower in James Harden, you're not going to have that excuse to say, oh, my point guard won't shoot. Now you have an MVP caliber point guard at the helm. No excuses for Joel Embiid and the Sixers. They need to get the job done, move on to the next round, and we'll see what it is. Hey, but you guys, man, it was a great day. Day 1 of playoff basketball. You guys, man, spam up the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this on day 1 of the playoffs, where we'll be running our scoreboard again for day 2 of the playoffs. Definitely looking forward to the matchups coming tomorrow when we got the Celtics Nets. That's going to be humongous right there. A lot of good games coming tomorrow. We'll be following them all. Make sure you tune in for the NBA scoreboard. Look, if you're interested in dropping music on our scoreboard, if you're an artist, all right, email us at business@fyfsports.com, and we would love to add your music to the scoreboard that plays. And again, we don't really like to do the live watch-alongs where we're talking to watch the game. I want you guys to actually go watch the games, and after the games are over, we'll either come back and do a reaction, or we'll go live, open the panel up, and we'll kind of discuss what we saw afterwards. So again, don't expect, and I know some of you guys want us to go live during the games. Unfortunately, I want to do a better job of taking in these games, watching, right, the intricacies of what these teams are doing, how they're able to make adjustments in game 2s, and then we can really come back and give you guys a better analysis of what we think or what we can predict and forecast in these NBA playoffs. But as expected, I think day 1 went as expected. I do not think the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Memphis series is going to be easy. I predict Minnesota to win that one in 7, especially now that they've stolen home court. It looks like that could potentially be the case, but Memphis is not going to be easy out. My next upset, and if you want to call it an upset, but I definitely have the Celtics beating the Nets. I think they're the superior team, even without Robert Williams. I think Al Horford's ability to defend and score on the inside should be the difference, but you never know, man. These NBA playoffs are crazy, man. But hey, y'all, we'll be back with more sports and news later. Make sure you guys continue to tune in as we cover the 2021-22 playoffs. We're going to try to give you guys the most in-depth coverage. We're always going to have a game of the day feature, and we are definitely going to get to our true game breakdowns where we kind of slow it down, rewind the tape, to show you guys the X's and O's of how these playoffs start to unfold, especially when we get into these later rounds when it's really, really, really important to break down adjustments and how teams need to attack on the offensive or defensive end. Hey, but it's FYF Sports, man. It's been another great podcast episode. We will be back with more sports and news, but until then, it's FYF Sports.
I got blessings falling on me. I got weapons, need no army. Stat like Tetris, you don't know me. Stat my fatty, you don't know me. Okay, hey now, it's a new kid on the playground. So many bags on me, you would've thought I was a spray ground. Now they know I don't play around. I can hear what you're saying now. I just doubled up my flight miles. Coast to coast, know they ain't in town. I get rich, watch, then I get a sick watch. Watch me hit the top, I might make a TikTok. Left hand, right hand. Catch the latest trend, I might double up my net worth. I've been going up now, see the top going down. If you didn't know now, I know you know now. That's cause he could go on top, you not really top. You keep saying top, well I guess you let the top down. I've been going up now, see the top going down. If you didn't know now, I know you know now. That's cause he could go on top, you not really top. You keep saying top, well I guess you let the top down. Made a wish, now I'm here now. It's for real now. I got everything I wanted and it's jumping like for real now. Out the mud, just an upstate boy now. I'm living like for real now. Ain't nothing, just an action with some muscles. I ain't fit 4 days, I just blame it on the hustle. Got these tattoos on my skin, I promise I'm no trouble. I'm from cash inside the duffel, not 6 inside the Russell. I get fly, you be crutching on designer that ain't fly. In LA, I scoop the cat or something fast for when I slide. Burning rubber, they gon' tax me for the tires, it's alright. On my lonely, I just start up that new iron and I ride. Yeah, this is not a trend. Tattoos on my skin, I'm my daddy's twin. I'm a businessman, just like Jigga said.